Rahim had reached a point in life where things no longer felt the same. The struggles were still there, the responsibilities had not disappeared, and the pressure had not become lighter, yet something inside him had changed completely. He was no longer the boy who got shaken by problems or slowed down by fear. Instead, he had become someone who understood pain, accepted difficulty, and kept moving forward without needing motivation from outside. His strength was now internal, built through countless silent nights and exhausting days. But even after everything he had gone through, life had one final challenge waiting for him, a challenge that would decide not just his future but the meaning of everything he had endured so far. The biggest examination of his life was approaching. It was not just another test that students prepare for casually, this one carried weight, expectations, and consequences. For many students, it was about marks, competition, and ranking. But for Rahim, it meant something far deeper. It was his chance to prove that all the sacrifices, all the struggles, and all the silent battles were not meaningless. It was his opportunity to change not only his own life but also the life of his family. As the exam date came closer, the environment around him became more intense. Students were stressed, discussing topics constantly, relying on their devices, searching for shortcuts and last-minute help. Rahim, however, followed a different approach. He reduced the noise around him and focused on clarity. He revised what he knew, strengthened what he had already built, and trusted his preparation instead of running after new information. The night before the exam was unlike anything he had experienced before. There was no panic in him, no restless movement, no fear that usually fills a student's mind. Instead, there was a strange kind of calmness. He sat quietly with his books open in front of him, but he wasn't trying to force himself to study more. He understood that this was not the time to push harder, it was the time to stay steady. His father entered the room and sat beside him in silence. That silence carried emotions that words could not express. After a few moments, his father placed his hand on Rahim's shoulder and softly told him that no matter what happened the next day, he was proud of him. Those simple words removed a burden Rahim didn't even realize he was carrying. For the first time, he felt that he didn't need to prove anything anymore. He had already come further than anyone expected. The next morning, Rahim walked toward the examination center with a steady pace. Around him, students were revising notes until the last moment, discussing questions nervously, and trying to calm their anxiety. Rahim did none of that. He simply observed. He had already done his part. Now, it was time to perform. When he entered the hall and sat down, he closed his eyes for a brief moment, not to pray for success, but to center himself. When the question paper was placed in front of him and he turned the first page, he realized that the exam was tougher than expected. For a brief second, his mind reacted, trying to bring back fear and doubt. But this time, he didn't let those feelings control him. Instead of rushing, he slowed down. Instead of panicking, he focused. He carefully read each question, approached them with patience, and trusted his understanding rather than memorized answers. Time moved forward, and Rahim remained fully engaged in the exam. While others around him seemed restless, he maintained a steady rhythm. His years of distraction-free learning had prepared him for exactly this moment. When the exam ended, students walked out discussing answers, comparing results, and worrying about mistakes. Rahim walked out quietly. He didn't feel the need to analyze everything immediately. He knew he had given his best, and that was enough for him. The waiting period for results began, and life returned to its usual pattern, but there was an unspoken tension in the air. The day the results were announced, Rahim stood among a crowd of students, searching for his name. His heartbeat was faster than usual, but his face remained calm. When he finally found his name at the top, everything around him seemed to pause. It was not a loud moment filled with celebration, it was a deep, silent realization that all his efforts had finally taken shape. The same people who once doubted him were now looking at him with admiration. Teachers appreciated him, students respected him, and his story began to spread. But Rahim remained the same. He didn't let success change his behavior or mindset. He understood that success is not a destination but a responsibility. When he returned home and showed his result to his father, the reaction was something he would never forget. His father's eyes filled with tears, not because of the rank itself, but because of everything it represented. It was proof that their struggles, sacrifices, and patience had meaning. It was a moment of pride that came after years of hardship. That moment alone made everything worth it for Rahim. However, What happened next surprised everyone. Rahim was given an opportunity to move forward, to step into a better environment with better resources and a more comfortable life. It was the kind of opportunity most people would accept without hesitation. But Rahim took his time. He thought deeply about what he truly wanted. He realized that his journey was not just about personal success anymore. It was about purpose. Instead of simply moving ahead for himself, he decided to give back. He started helping students who were in situations similar to what he once faced. He guided them, taught them, and showed them that limitations are not permanent if the mindset is strong. Over time, Rahim became more than just a successful student. He became someone people looked up to, not because of his marks, but because of his journey and his character. When people asked him about his secret, he never gave a complicated answer. He simply said that while others were distracted by noise, he chose silence, and in that silence, he found his strength. He didn't wait for perfect conditions, and he didn't complain about what he didn't have. He focused on what he could do and kept moving forward. Rahim's story proved something powerful. Life does not always give equal opportunities, but it always gives a chance. What matters is whether you are willing to take that chance, work through the difficulties, and stay consistent even when it feels impossible. His journey was not perfect, but it was real, and that is what made it inspiring. In the end, Rahim understood that success is not about having everything, it is about making the most of what you have and refusing to give up when life becomes difficult. And that is what truly defines a person's future.